There's so much new technology coming at us all the time, so how do you tell the real game changers from expensive distractions? How do you know when it's the right time to jump in? Well, this is that map, Gartner's hype cycle. It's what you use to see where technology really is on its journey from being embryonic to emerging to established through to exploited, and often, ones we see extinct are getting forecast in there as well. It gives you a framework to make smart, intentional investments instead of, just chasing the next shiny object. But this is about way more than managing risk. When you embrace the right technologies at the right time, you're sending a powerful signal that you're serious about innovation, and it helps create a culture that actually empowers your team, giving them purpose. And this is important. It helps you attract and keep the best people. And this isn't, just a gut feeling. The data is pretty stark. Gallup found that companies with a highly engaged workforce see 51% lower employee turnover, which is massive. And having a modern, innovative tech stack, which comes from having a culture around technology, is a key ingredient for getting that kind of engagement. Let's get into the first big challenge on our map. What to do with all those expensive, aging systems we already have. This is what we call the unification project for traditional virtualization and cloud native. Why? Well, money. Yes, you're seeing that right. That number isn't a typo. Companies are literally looking at potential price hikes of over 1,000% for their VMware infrastructure. With a cost pressure like that, it forces you to look long and hard at the old way of doing things and find a better path. If you're looking for that off-ramp, then this chart really lays out the two different worlds IT teams are trying to navigate. On the left, you've got the old way, silos, separate teams, separate tools for your virtual machines and your modern containers. So the big question is, how do we actually build that bridge between the old and the new? Well, the key piece of that technology here is something called KubeVirt. And to put simply, it lets you run your old school virtual machines right inside a modern Kubernetes cluster. And it's the bridge that really connects the past to the future. And the benefits of doing this are clear. First, you get to escape that massive licensing cost. Secondly, you bring your apps into a declarative state. So we tell it what we want and not how to do it. And post-migration, you can modernize gradually at your own pace as you're moving next door, not to another country. Okay, next stop, and this one has layers, the portability paradox. This is all about getting your autonomy back and breaking away from the dependence on a single cloud provider. This is the heart of the paradox, right? Cloud providers have some powerful services, and your data may sit across locations. If we consider data gravity, what if that key data is in your data center, where the execution happens in the cloud? What if proximity is important? Maybe you want some portability. In the cloud, the more you use, the more you get tangled up in their specific ecosystems, and it makes it hard to leave. It's not a velocity issue. You can use these services to great effect. And this isn't just a cost issue anymore either, because you are paying for those services that are unpopular on those platforms. No, we've got geopolitics coming into play. You have a European law, GDPR, that says citizen data has to stay local and protected, but you've got the US Cloud Act that can demand access to that very same data. And this conflict is forcing companies to demand real control and true data sovereignty. So what are your choices? On the left, you've got the cloud vendors path, where basically they extend their cloud right into your data center. And this feels nice and consistent, but it's just digging in on that vendor lock-in deeper. And the jury's out on data access. And best be sure that none of that data plane is being replicated out to the public cloud if you're worried about that. On the right, you have an independent path. This is where you build on a platform that doesn't care where you operate, like Kubernetes. And that is what gives you the true freedom, true portability, and the power to actually comply with those tricky data sovereignty laws. Moving on, now that we have this portable foundation, let's visit the next stop on our roadshow. We're going to push beyond the traditional data center and explore the next real frontier, the edge. You know, this UK government software-defined defense pattern is a great way to visualize what we even mean by the edge, because it's not one place. It's more of a gradient. It goes from a highly connected central command center to what you might call a near edge. In our example, this is a ship. Then all the way to a far edge, like a drone that might be connected only once in a while. This pattern applies elsewhere as well. Consider other remote critical infrastructure. We're talking about wind farms, retail locations, factory floors, basically anywhere you need to do processing of data and make key decisions on the spot really, really fast. Let's make this real with a wind farm example. Okay, so you've got a central control center managing the whole fleet of wind farms. Then you have a local edge right at the wind farm's control room. That's managing the local power grid, reporting, getting predictions of supply and demand. And finally, you have the IoT edge, which is at the base of the wind turbine itself. If that loses connectivity, it has to operate on its own, making split-second changes to the blades to keep them from getting damaged, or turning from the wind due to power grid overpower. This is the tiered approach that is the future of edge computing. Traditional Kubernetes doesn't work here because of the overhead needed for each of those Kubernetes clusters, but it can be done with Kubernetes, even when you have extended connectivity outages. So we've covered a lot of infrastructure, but let's be honest, none of this matters without people who can actually build on it and can deliver their ideas. So how do we empower our developers to really unlock innovation? Now, the whole you build it, you run it model sounded great in theory, but when you got to try it at scale, it often just led to developer burnout. And the teams end up solving the same basic infrastructure problem over and over and over again. And it's all that time and energy that could have been spent creating real value. The solution that we have to this is called the golden path. And think of it as creating a smooth path for your developers. It's a standardized, architected, well-supported and documented set of tools and practices for building software in your organization. This is the entire philosophy right there. You're not focusing developers down a certain road, you're making a best practice path that's so incredibly easy and efficient that it just becomes a natural choice for them. So why does this matter so much? Well, consider this. Developers can spend up to 60% of their time on what's called the outer loop. And that's things like maintenance, the debugging, the operational stuff. A good golden path automates a huge chunk of that, freeing them to focus on the inner loop, which is actually writing code or prompting or building new cool features. You want a solution that ties together the infrastructure, the apps, and the people. And that's often a developer portal. And we can help with that at Kubernetes also. We're getting close to home now. What does this mean for your strategy? Well, it really boils down to prioritizing one of these key 4 moves. If you're legacy heavy, then unify your old and new infrastructure and cut costs and complexity. You can also bring the teams that operate that legacy infrastructure and help them get a foothold in this new world of cloud native. If you're cloud or regulation bound, the second one, then get some portability. Third, if you're feeling hemmed in and the world could be your tech oyster, distribute your applications out to the edge and build on that portability for locality by adding real-time decision making at the edge. Finally, if your platform is present but your process precludes your people's performance, pick a developer portal and pave that golden path. At the end of the day, these strategies aren't just about picking the right tech. They're about building a resilient, adaptable platform for your entire organization. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The future is being built on your platforms. What foundation are you building from? I've been Anthony from Kubernetes. Thanks for watching.